Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is 10 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I think if I stand this far back, I can remove my mask a little bit. My name is Michael Sibley. I'm the Communication Director at the State Department of Education. I want to thank each and everyone for coming out this morning as we discuss the very serious subject of mental health and how it plays a role in our student academic success, and the wonderful people in this room who are making an incredible difference toward that end. I wanted to thank our media for coming out. We usually have live streaming of our press conferences. Due to the circumstances, we're not able to do that, however, but we will have the entire press conference recorded and available on the ALSDE's YouTube website by about 1 o'clock this afternoon. So if you need to go back to recheck for any quotes or sources, it will be available on our YouTube page right after lunch or so. So with no further ado, I am going to hand the stage over to the State Superintendent of Education, of course, Dr. Eric Mackey, and he will give you an overview about what we're doing here today and how it's going to benefit the students of Alabama. Thank you.
That's super. Thank you, Dr. Sibley. Appreciate the opportunity. Well, it's good to be here this morning. It's good to see such a crowd, and I'm so glad there's interest in what we're talking about, which is, of course, mental health services for our students, and particularly the Mental Health Services Coordinator Program. I just have talked to another group earlier this morning and pointed out to them, and I'm going to point it out again. In our strategic plan, we have a goal that says we want to provide safe and supportive learning environments for students. And if you'll remember, just a year and a half ago for sure, after the terrible tragedy in Parkland, Florida, what we were focusing on was the safe part of that. So are our schools safe? And of course the legislature gave us really good funding. We've got a great safety program rolled out, and that's what we were focused on at the time. But we've now moved to that second word, because it's not just safe campuses, but it's supportive campuses too. And that's what we're here to talk about particularly today. There are so many positive things going on to support our students, but there cannot be too many of them with the situation we're facing out there now with COVID and the many mental health challenges that poses for our students and for our families and all the other issues they're dealing with. The next speaker behind me is a hero to this whole cause. Representative Nathaniel Ledbetter from Fort Payne, Rainsville, I should get that right. He represents Rainsville and Fort Payne area in DeKalb County. And he has a heart and a passion for making sure that children are supported and that they have the resources they need so they can come to school ready to learn. And so he really picked this ball up last year and helped us, pushed it through the legislative process. But I had to say this more, Representative Ledbetter, because when you had a great opportunity to move on to other things, once COVID hit, and so many things had to be dropped because all the balls we were juggling, we could not continue to juggle and deal with a worldwide pandemic that was facing us. But this is the one ball that he said, we're not going to drop this. We're going to see this all the way through the budget process because our students are going to need these mental health services now more than they've ever needed them before. And you can't know how much we appreciate your leadership and your support for our students for that. So with that, I'm going to quickly turn it over to Representative Ledbetter, and then we have some other folks that are going to speak today who are working in the field, and I want you to have time to hear from all of them. I will say this, we have 102 of these coordinators that are working across the state, and we are, of course, seeking some increased funding, so hopefully we can expand it to more folks and more school districts this year. So Representative Ledbetter, it's all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. We certainly appreciate everybody being here today, as this is an important issue for our state, and it's been an honor to work with Dr. Mackey and his staff. And first of all, I think we got to thank Governor Ivey for getting on board. I mean, that was one thing that this would not have been, it wouldn't have been happening if it hadn't been for that. I know we talked back in 2019 with the State Department along with the Department of Mental Health. We certainly appreciate them being here today because they are playing an important role with this. I met with them with our committee to discuss this, and Kayla Magby was in that meeting. Thank her for being here today. And I think after her discussion, people really realized what we could be doing in our school systems if we had a mental health coordinator. And y'all have done an awesome job. Dr. Mackey, it's hard to believe, really, that a year from now, it was just a year ago, that we were trying to get this started, and today we have 102 out in our districts. And you are certainly making a difference in young people's life, and I commend you for that. And it has been a pleasure of mine to play a small role in that, and I congratulate you on the job you're doing. Dr. Mackey, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your staff. I know Jessica and Terry and everybody played a big role in this, and this is a good day for Alabama, and we've only just begun. We've got a long way to go, and we will continue to work on that, and certainly appreciate the partnership that the Department of Mental Health and Dr. Mackey and the Governor's Office has played in this. Thank you.
Representative Ledbetter, thank you very much for your support, participation, guidance, and leadership. I want to say thank you, Commissioner, for being here as well, and Dr. Mackey for leading us off. What we're going to do next, my name is Terry Roller, and I'm one of Dr. Mackey's Assistant State Superintendents, and I support the section where we house the work that we're doing with the mental health service coordinators. And so what I would like to do now is just talk very briefly about what our focus was initially. When you're looking at middle school age students, you're talking about nearly 20% will have some sort of mental health challenge or concern that we deal with in schools. Safety was always a priority for us in schools, and we got to do everything. You know, if you've ever been around an elementary kid when they're first starting school, the teacher's mama, mama, mama for the first 2 weeks of school, it is the coolest thing to see. But that's really the role that we have. We're really parents, surrogate parents away from the home when you're in the school building. And so what we're doing is we're taking care of all of the needs of students. Now, remember, counselors have always worked first. They were front line with supporting students in their needs in school. But there's so many other demands that go along with being a counselor today. This was an additional service as we were evolving into here's how we're going to move forward and continue to meet the needs of our young people. So safety was a priority. You've seen all the things going on in schools these days. And we said, what if we can get in there and identify and triage issues that are going on and push kids in the right way to get the support that they need? That's what's going on with our mental health service folks. So what I want to do now is bring along my esteemed colleague, Kay Warfield. We'll bring her up. Let her speak very briefly about what's going on from her perspective, and then we're going to start introducing some of our coordinators and let them come up and talk about their experiences. Dr. Warfield?
Thank you, Mr. Roller. Thank you, Representative Ledbetter and Superintendent Mackey and Commissioner Boswell. This has been quite an arduous journey, but I want you to know of all the years I have been working at the State Department, this has probably been the most rewarding initiative and the most challenging at the same time, because mental health wellness does not discriminate against anything or anybody. And at some point in time, everyone in this room will experience a need for an extra pat on the back, or it's going to be okay, and to help you give an extra push. The mental health service coordinators, the 102 and 102 of our school districts, are a member of a team at the school level. They do not work in isolation, and they also have embraced community partnerships to include the community mental health service centers. This is not a one-man show. So I want you to know that up front, nor does it take the place of all the resources that we currently have in our school, because it takes a village to really support these children. The COVID-19 just kind of allowed the tip of that iceberg to be shown to the public. So Representative Ledbetter, your courage and your vision to support this and to champion does not go unnoticed across our state of Alabama. These people, these mental health service coordinators, have done amazing work since the first day they were funded, October the 1st. Now, when you take away holidays, you take away Christmas, Thanksgiving, these people have seen thousands of children and families in just a short 3-month period. They have circled the communities. They have provided events on the square. Mental health may not be the first thing that comes out of our mouth for a conversation topic, but it is always an underlying thought in people's mind, because we have had students who have had experiences where they dropped out of school, were not successful in school, and some of these issues resonate around social and emotional issues. We serve as a broker. We are serving as a coordinator of initiatives that the state legislators have already funded in the past, like Helping Families Initiative, the Peer Helper Program with the anti-bullying initiative. We have tried to pull all of these services together within a centralized area within a school to formulate an LEA plan. And that comprehensive mental health matters plan is what the LEAs are working from. And it takes everybody rowing in the same direction in order for this to work. It has been my pleasure and honor to serve as their coach. I want you to know that the 4 ladies that we have today represent all 102. We have gotten emails and texts, supporting us all day, all morning, and they said, don't forget to say, I saw 68 kids just last month that I referred to the Community Mental Health Center. Tuscumbia City sent me a text this morning and said, be sure and say, this time last year, the first of the year, there were 12 pages of kids who were struggling and not passing. This year, there were 4. And we're talking about only 3 months worth of work. So we're excited. We know we have our work cut out for us, and we know that there are obstacles and challenges are ahead. But if you can look at the faces of these 4 ladies and the masks that they had made, we are the missing link. And so without further ado, on your agenda, you've got the order. It will be Joy Stanley from Auburn City. It will be, let's see, Latricia, thank you, dear. I want to make sure I didn't mess them up because they said, we got to go in this order. Latricia Ogletu from Huntsville City, Kayla Magby from Fort Payne City, and we will close with Laura Bruce from Ozark City. So ladies, take your place. Thank you.
I'm going to model the mask for just a moment. Good morning. I'm Joy Stanley with Auburn City Schools, and I'm here representing 102 mental health services coordinators throughout the great state of Alabama. In the words of L.R. Noist, I just wanted to share, she said, every day there are small ways that children ask, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? Sometimes our response is based upon their behavior, and that's not the way it should be. I'm not going to go on and prove to you that there's mental health problems in our school district. I think everyone is very aware, and I'm glad that our legislature has taken this stance to put this position in place. However, I will share this. I'm a licensed social worker with the state of Alabama, and my 14 years of experience in public school arena can assure you, in my day in, day out work, boots on the ground, there are mental health concerns that are significant in our school district. Now, I will also let you know that we're very proud that we are now making strides in ways that we can address those issues with the resources that we have from this collaboration. Going back in time, prior to this collaboration and the coordination of mental health services, there was a time when it was overwhelming to serve these children in our school district and to meet their needs in the educational classroom. Overwhelming was probably an understatement. I vividly remember a school counselor looking at me and saying, I am not trained to handle this. I can assure you now our school counselors are very trained to handle this, and our social workers are very trained to handle this. Through our collaboration, we've been able to obtain training from Mental Health First Aid for our youth with our first responders. And now they are very well suited to identify and assess situations with students and link them to services in the community and help their parents guide the way with their parents. Through our collaborative with school-based mental health services and our local mental health center in Lee County, our area is called East Alabama Mental Health. We have a strong partnership with them They bring therapists to our schools to serve our top 5% of students that really need these services, and they are there on campus, and they are very consistent in seeing our kids either weekly or bi-weekly. And we collaborate together, and we make plans, and we make sure that we are giving our best effort to address these issues for these children. Other collaborations that we have are with community partners. Lee County Family Court with Judge Fellows and his awesome team of probation officers, juvenile probation officers, I should say, work collectively with us. Lee County DHR and East Alabama Mental Health, we work together as a team to advocate for our students. I can't say enough about our first responders, which will always probably be our school counselors. They are very well trained and they're very well adept to handle these situations. Bringing in school social workers has been a game changer. Linking families to community resources, and also just being there to engage families and help them and help the school counselors as a team of support. This was an opportunity to bring in some school social workers to your district if you don't have any currently in your district. For the future, Auburn City Schools is seeking an early warning system to identify mental health needs for students and for staff, and try to be able to address what they need up front in a quick manner so it doesn't turn into more of an issue down the road. We appreciate all the support that we've received. We know we're making a difference in the community. And I just want to thank the legislators for their continued support of this program. In the words of Helen Keller, I will leave you with this because she is from my hometown of Tuscumbia, and I have to say something from her. She said, "Alone we can do little, together we can do much." Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to stand here and speak before you this morning. It's both a pleasure and a privilege. I say it's a privilege because years ago, starting out in my field of mental health, working with adults, I said, you know, I just really wish that they had been gotten when. And now it's a pleasure to come full circle and get them now, when it matters. You know, the work that our educators do, if anyone has watched that Jamie Waller video, they know the list has grown over the years. As Mr. Waller had mentioned, they are many to their students. They are parent, they are teacher, they are nurse. They are those that help kiss away the tears, metaphorically, and they hold the hands when they are nervous or scared. So as a result of our position here, not only are we here to support our students and our families, but we're also here to support our educators as well. They are our front line too. And with many of the events that have taken place over 2020, not only have they been having to cope with the stress of just being the best educators that they can possibly be to our students, but also managing themselves as well. It's like the example of the flight attendant. You know, they say when the plane is crashing, you know, put your mask on before you help the other person. And that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but some of these crises that our children experience are proverbially like a plane crash for them. And so our teachers, our educators need that support even more. Recently, a teacher reached out to me. And when it comes to mental health, taking that first step is usually the hardest. Advocacy and education is so powerful and crucial when you take that first step. So she reached out to me and she was like, you know, I really need some assistance in navigating how to begin the process of finding someone to talk to. So it's been a pleasure in working in close conjunction with our EAP program to help her navigate those inroads, but also to be able to get a lot of support from our community stakeholders with this. Not only our community mental health, but just also others that are like, we want to help Huntsville City Schools provide as much support as they can to our educators, because our children are our future, and we know that if they cannot do what they need to do, then our children suffer. So I pull up to the house. She called me after hours. I have a standing rule to make room, and I try to make as much room as I can. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and she was carrying quite a load on her shoulders. But she made sure that she was there at school at 6:30 in the morning to tutor students, and she was there after school to help tutor any of the students who needed assistance as well, in addition to running her own household. And she was tired, and she was stressed, and she was carrying such a weight. And at the end of the conversation, she said, "You know what? I am just so grateful that we have this position in our schools now. I am so grateful for you, because I would not have had anyone to share this with. I would not have had the opportunity just to take an hour and a half of my day, my busy day, just to release some of this." So while I thank all of the key stakeholders across the state and our legislators for supporting the bill that made this happen, I want to encourage you guys to continue to realize how much mental health matters and make room. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kayla Magby. I'm with Fort Payne City Schools. I'd like to take the beginning of my time just to thank our superintendent at Fort Payne City Schools and our school board for being proactive, and of course Representative Ledbetter for being proactive, and a huge support for me when I think back to a year ago of making trips with my superintendent, Mr. Cunningham, just the amount of support that we have received to be 102 now. It is a privilege and an honor to still be in this fight, because we still have a long ways to go, and that's just what it is. It's a battle every day. Thinking about Fort Payne City Schools and where we have come from with our mental health program, it makes me proud to be a part of that. We try every day to ensure that our students are happy, healthy, and safe. And that is how I try to look at how do I and how do we as 102 serve our students. The ultimate goal is for our students to be educated. That's the ultimate goal. We want our students to be educated and to be productive citizens when they become adults. And a lot of times there are barriers to that production. And so being a mental health coordinator, being a social worker, that is what we look to try to address. How can we help our students be more productive? When we think about our tier system, especially now with our mental health tier system, a lot of the times students can fall through the cracks. And we want to be a part of the net that would catch those students who would otherwise fall through the cracks. We have tremendous services in place already from our state with support to serve those students that are on Tier 3 as far as our mental health collaboration and local agency partnerships. But we want to make sure that not only the Tier 3 students are receiving services, but all of them from Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, because it's a comprehensive collaboration, not only for the students who are in immediate crisis, but the students who may be simply struggling socially. It all plays a role, and we, as mental health coordinators and people within the school system, we see the need every day. The need is there, and it does not discriminate, and it can reach students from pre-K all the way to seniors. We have students from all walks of life who may be battling or struggling with mental illness. And in Alabama now, and moving forward, mental health matters, and those statements, and that phrase, it matters. And we like to show our students that we are there. We are here for support, not only our students, but our faculty and staff. We have faculty and staff who are our frontline, our counselors, our administrators. They want to be able to come to someone such as a mental health coordinator and ask a question and know that they can get, an adequate response and have the appropriate team in place. And that's how I see my role as a mental health coordinator, is ultimately a team member, an advocate, not only for our student, but for our school system, for the family. And so again, I'd like to thank our leadership for being so supportive. I don't think I've ever felt more support in a field than I do now. Looking back from a year to now, I've never felt more support than I do in this moment. And I'm thankful for the opportunity, and it's only up from here. Thank you.
Good morning. I am proud to be a part of 102. My name is Laura Bruce, and I am the Mental Health Service Coordinator for Ozark City Schools under the leadership of Superintendent Rick McInturf. And our theme at Ozark City Schools is to be the light. And that's what I tell myself every day. How can I continue to be the light serving in this position? In my 3 short months with Ozark City Schools, I've heard from the staff that this position was the missing link that was been able to address the needs and coordinate the services inside and outside of the box. And I recognize that all 102 of us are propelling off the shoulders of those who stood before us, paving the way to support the whole child. The ones who have already been in the soil of this work, rescuing students from dropping out, doing anything necessary to support them and the whole family. I am humbled that I can be the extra pair of hands needed to join alongside them. It's all about communicating, collaborating, and coordinating together. When the bow breaks, they say the cradle must fall, but not when we have bonded ourselves to our guidance counselors, our teachers, our staff, parents, police, mental health agencies, family service centers, the community, the village, all on speed dial. By working together, we are tapping into the bigger picture and identifying the gaps that our students are experiencing. And we are truly in the 21st century, and our students don't hold back on social media or on finding ways to message their friends. And this is why we are utilizing early warning systems such as Bark for Schools, and later is our desire to bring in the Rhythm app. It is so crucial that we are aware of the social and emotional state of our students, especially with them going back and forth from remote and face-to-face and oftentimes back to remote. In my short time, Bark for Schools has already flagged and alerted me to several suicide notes and drug use. By collaborating together with other external resources, we were able to get the right interventions at the right time for these students. We have trained peer helpers in our middle and high schools in how to pay attention to the conversations they're having with their peers. And if they see someone having a day, just simply ask them, take that moment to ask them how they're doing. We value the importance of cultivating a safe and supportive school community. And thanks to your support and trust in us, we are fostering relationships with thousands of children and their families, flipping the light switch on the resilience that they already own. Several parents are starting to feel more and more comfortable just coming to me and say, hey, I just don't have it, or help me find a way. From mental health services for our students to having coat drives when it got brick cold outside, to report card conferencing, to pinpoint those students who need the tutoring, we are filling in the gaps on a daily basis. On May 8th in downtown Ozark, we are sponsoring an Aware Fair on the square to help inform the community about the great importance of mental health and on the resources we have in and around our town. I love how the community is embracing the needs of our students and coming more into our fold. They are excited because they know they are making a difference in the child's life now. They get the bigger picture. In this very city, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1957, he comes to see that somebody stands in the background, often doing a little job in a big way, making it possible for him to do what he's doing. I truly believe as our students graduate and mature, they will think back and remember us that way. That's my hope. So lastly, I just want to touch briefly on something else that is major. It was mentioned earlier, and that is reminding our staff and us as 102 mental health service coordinators about the importance of self-care. I know the teachers, guidance counselors, the staff, we all take these situations that our students are going through home with us. It's in our hearts and in our minds. I know I do. I send out a monthly newsletter with information on the importance of mental health, well-being, and self-care tips. And I also send a weekly email out with the importance of mental health wellness and that they matter. Matter of fact, I offered a free yoga class in a nearby studio. Personally, mine is walking and running and writing poetry to get out some of the most indescribable scenarios that I hear and witness almost daily. And this way, I get to go home as a healthy parent to my 14-year-old son. So again, let me say thank you for your support and acknowledging just how important this position is to our school systems, our community, our world. I look forward to continuing to serve and grow and learn and to never get stagnant in this work because our children do not have time for it. I'll leave you with a poem I wrote at the end of a day where we had an episode with a young lady who we discovered that she was a cutter. Now I lay me down to sleep. Unreal thoughts, just too deep as the cut on her wrist. When did her life take a sudden twist? What did we miss? The beauty queen who decided one day to change her scene? Bright eyes went dark, grades gone low. We had to know if someone asked the questions. We went to see her with her long brown hair. She smiled at us and saw we cared and said no more. Away she went. Heal her pain. She was sent. No money spent could describe that smile. She's finally been heard. Now it may take a while, but that's okay because now she has time. She now has time. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I know that people in this room feel so much better knowing that our children are in such capable hands. The work you guys do is invaluable. It's the work of the heart and of the mind. With that, with our media, to make sure that we are adhering to social media protocol, if you have questions of individuals, we'll have them come to this mic and we'll answer the questions from behind the podium. I don't want to gather into too dense a group, so we can start from my right to left, or if there are any individual media inquiries, just raise your hand, let us know, and we'll call people up individually one by one to answer your immediate questions at the microphone. That includes our guests, our mental health professionals who you've heard from today, and I think have touched all of us. With that, do we have any media questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just initially, could you all walk through potentially any plans that you have to walk students through the pandemic? I know that mental health concerns were definitely there before the pandemic, that students have faced loss, financial loss, families losing jobs. I mean, it's changed adults and children as well.
Who wants to? Dr. Warfield.
At this point in time, we have a mixture of kids that are still at home and some that are at school, but the mental health service coordinator serves as one of the teammates that actually makes contact with these kids. Several of them mentioned an early warning alert system, so a lot of our kids are able to, as simple as mashing an emoji for that day that will alert someone back at the school of how they feel on that particular day. And then they immediately contact that particular student at home. The academic piece, There've been several numerous things that have been brought to face as far as the academics go, with potentials of summer camps, with learning circles, virtual learning circles, hot topics, kids working on projects in a collaborative way through a Zoom. So we're really trying hard, I think, collectively at the department to wrap around these kids and provide them some of the skills and some of the feelings that they're missing, particularly when it deals with isolation or dark thoughts. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
I had a question for Dr. Mackey or whoever, I guess,
Yeah.
qualified.
And if, whether it's Dr. Mackey or one of our mental health professionals, if you would come to the mic when you answer the question so the cameras can pick up your audio.
For
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about,
Yeah.
thinking about, the legislature budget talks, can you talk about what you hope to fund with the upcoming budget increase?
Sure. So what we've asked for, and we talked about a little bit yesterday in the hearing, was an increase that would provide one of these people, one of these great mental health services coordinators in each school district. So we have 102 of them, and they are spread out. So one per school system. We have 142 school systems. So we'd certainly like to continue to grow that. I will say some of these, I know some of the ladies who've spoken this morning might could speak more to that. Some of them have other help. So some of our large school districts are able to put more into it because they have more students and do a little more. But many of them have that one person. So that's one thing we've asked for. And another thing that we've begun talking about and we'll have to talk about is building it out. So somebody already mentioned this morning early warning. So there are other resources they're going to need, obviously, to put into place. And the legislature, we're talking to them about funding some of that. And some of it, we are able to use some of the CARES Act money, we think, to support. We're investigating that now. Of course, the problem with that is that's funding for now, but it's not long-term funding. So it would help us, though, to get some of the supports and services they need over the next 2 years, but then that funding will eventually play out. Good? Any more from me while I'm up here? Oh, that's good news. Anybody else?
Any more for any of our other guests?
A question back here.
I
Krista?
recognize Krista.
She moved to the other side of the room. She's not.
Mine, I'm just trying to get a better grasp of how this works, particularly in the larger systems. I know Montgomery has Family Sunshine Center and Montgomery area health counselors, and some of our Title I schools have social workers that come in. As a coordinator over a system like that, how does that work?
Well, I'm gonna give her a minute to react, but we've got a person here from Huntsville who can talk a little more about that, because I think they have a much broader, obviously large system, a broad amount of resources in the community. But I will say this first. So one of the issues, and we use the word, one of the hard things when you do a project like this is deciding what words will you use. And so we use the word coordinator on purpose because we wanted to, one, distinguish that they're not therapists. We do have the Department of Mental Health with us today, and they provide some wonderful therapists who go into our schools, and then our students go to them at the mental health centers in some cases. And then we have students in private therapy. But the main job for these coordinators, I know they work with students, they work with teachers, but it's to make sure that all those community services and the in-school services are coordinated together to support those students. And I'm going to give an example, and then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to ask our person from Huntsville to come up for a second. But I was absolutely, last night, my heart was absolutely touched in speaking with the superintendent in Jefferson County, who's not here today, but y'all know we had a terrible tornado 2 nights ago in Fultondale, and we had a student who was killed. And they have used their mental health services have wrapped around that family that had, great need. They lose a child and their home at the same time. They needed a lot of services. And so they have wrapped around that family and provided services for that family. Now, some of those services have come from inside the school system, but most of them have come from the community. But what they've done is take over, basically, and say, we will coordinate all of this working together. And that's what these folks are doing each and every day. So Who's my, yes, I lost you back there. But can you say a little more, would you come up and say a little more about in a big system, how you coordinate all of that?
So, piggybacking off of Dr. Mackey, my goal is to be the golden thread that connects it all. Very blessed to work in a school system that has a ton of resources that was already in place but is now growing due to the mental health services coordinator role. We do have social workers that service all of our 36 schools, in addition to our school-based mental health collaborative, where we have in-school therapists that provide therapy services to our children and any assistance to those children's families. And had the pleasure of building those collaborative partnerships with other agencies, nonprofit agencies and private agencies as well, have garnered a great amount of feedback from private agencies that are just excited to provide assistance in helping our students and their families and our educators as well. So my job is to just get in the trenches, attending problem-solving teams, multidisciplinary teams as well, when issues do arise with students, being there as part of the crisis team, issues regarding suicide, and other additional risk issues, just being of support and getting in there and assessing and saying, okay, this is where we can go with this. So just being that person that just kind of is like the spur that says, okay, these resources match what this student's needs are, or this group of students' needs on a tier 2 basis, where we can get in there and do group work and set up certain programs specifically for those schools.
Any other?
Can I just say something real quick? Thank you. I just want to clarify, all of our schools have an infrastructure in place that has been there for many years, and it's called the Alabama Continuous Improvement Plan, where the infrastructure is there for evaluating all types of data, not just for academics, but social, emotional, demographics, anecdotal type things. And when those needs are identified, they're placed in the plan. And then those plans have benchmarks. The plan also then has a support system of the multi-tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And it's a process of pulling all these resources within your school and community to fill your tiers with resources, which could be personnel, programs, or processes. Our position, our job, is an extra set of eyes and ears to support those services in those 3 tiers. So it's not an add-on, it's not a siloed position, but it's something that's interfaced like a piece of fabric in the school and everyday living. Does that kind of give it perspective a little bit? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other media inquiries? Any other questions?
I just have one last question.
Absolutely.
Are there adequate mental health services in the community to refer these students and their families to?
That's an amazing question. Someone with some sort of overview on that.
I'll say a little bit. So, I'm not going to put the commissioner on the spot here, but I will say this. The Department of Mental Health has been a great partner, and they continue to be a great partner. Commissioner Boswell has some of the same issues I have, though, that we have a teacher shortage. We're constantly trying to fill it. She has a mental health therapist shortage and constantly trying to fill it. So it kind of depends on day to day. There may be gaps sometimes because people retire or they resign or they move on or they go into private practice, and they've got to fill that space. So I would say that continues to be a struggle to get enough personnel to meet the needs out there for therapists. Do you want to add more, or is that?
That's great. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You want to add something?
And so I want to add a little to that. So we currently have 80 partnerships with the Mental Health Collaborative. One of the expectations that we were looking at doing is expanding our collaboratives, and so we're looking at 10 or 15 more expansions this year. And again, we have 102 mental health coordinators and we're about 85 by year end with collaboratives. And so those are regional collaborations with the local individual school districts that they choose to sign up with mental health. And so as we're growing both of those, we'll be able to coordinate the needs of young people better. And so when people ask me, what is it exactly that a coordinator does, just to give that 36,000-foot view perspective, you need to sort of imagine an air traffic controller. And so as the children's needs come in, we're kind of calling them in and dispersing them to the right, we disperse them to the right person or the right program or the right support. So these people are coming in and saying, okay, we have this child with this issue. We know that we have this small group of young people working together with a therapist. Maybe we need to make that referral for that. Or maybe we have a mentor-mentee program. We need to align this child with that person. They now have a mentor that can communicate and check in on them and just be that person for them they listen to. So that mental health service coordinator is the air traffic controller grabbing the needs of the young people as they come by and putting them on the right runway to get support. Maybe that's a better picture? Okay, thank you.
All right, we have an aviation specialist here. Got that taken care of. Randy Scott, yes, sir.
This is Randy one. You talk about eyes and ears with helping out with this program. Is it important to include parents as a part of it? Can they come in and help out? More eyes, you can see something, say something, to be informed, to be involved with this?
One of our coordinators want to take that?
Take that one. I would just say that we know that parents are the first teachers, and we know parents are the integral part in education. And yes, we need our parents to be a part of this process. To get mental health services through the school-based services, the parents have to give permissions for that. And they collaborate with the therapist and with the team about what is needed for their child to be successful in school. So parents are the utmost importance. In Auburn City Schools, we do have a program that's called See Something, Say Something, that anyone in the community can make an anonymous email or a text about a concern that they see within our community. And through the program, it has its little tiers, but it notifies our principals and our safety team, and then we address those, and then they refer out to the mental health services coordinator or to the school counselor. So we all work together. It's an all integral thing, and we're in it to win it.
All of our mental health coordinators, our colleagues in mental health, and everyone who came out this morning, we greatly appreciate it. If you have additional questions, you guys know how to reach out to me, and we can get you individual interviews if that is needed going further. Just want to thank you guys for coming out. Fantastic. Thank you especially for those who drove to be here. The work that you do, again, is invaluable. Huge plus. Representative Ledbetter, thank you for your leadership on this as well. If there are no other concerns, we are adjourned. Yes. Thank you all. We have one other comment. Come on.
Let me say one thing, and I'll be very short, and certainly appreciate everybody's work, but it's hard to believe, as we talked about a little bit earlier, that it was just a year ago that Dr. Mackey stood on this very stage, and we talked about the mental health issue in our state, and in the meeting with the governor, when I told her we were failing miserably, we're no longer failing miserably, and it's because of people like you, and I just want to thank you. I think God put you in a position He wants you in, and I think He put us all where He wants us to be to do His work, and you certainly are doing that. And in our mental health, we had three pieces of legislation and 2 resolutions. Both those resolutions went through the Stepping Up program. As Ms. Boswell knows, is going to be so important for our county, that you alluded to a while ago, that we can work together with our education people. So that's one that's in place, and I know y'all are issuing those grants now. I met with the governor. We had a conference on the steps at the Capitol and talked about the 3 crisis cure centers. We'll have 2 pieces of legislation, the 72-hour hold, and also the crisis training for police officers coming up. So it's unbelievable how quickly it has fallen in place, but it's because everybody was working together, both Democrat and Republican, in leadership and in the House and the Senate with the members too, and what the governor has stepped up to do. This is actually the largest package of mental health funding that we've had since Lurleen Wallace And so we've got to say thank you to the bodies and to the governor for that. And Dr. Mackey, y'all have done a great job. Thank you very much. Thanks.